guys, this is a new spot for us because this is 2 years in a row now where we're talking about how well the Calgary Flames did in terms of their draft. And that's not something like, look, there have been a lot of times where the Flames have had trouble getting the draft right 1 year in a row, let alone multiple years. I would have to go back and see, like, where is the stretch where it's like, man, killed it. But it seems like, again, the consensus is they killed it. Let's look up at the top. As Reschny, I just think he adds some dog down the middle for this team's prospect pool. We talked about him as a target on the podcast and in the draft preview. I talked about him again on Sportsnet 960. It was kind of our consensus that that was the way it should go, and that is the way that it went. If this hits, it is not the high-end prospect that I think people in Calgary so greatly desire. I don't think it is that. But I think that this is, if it hits in the way that it could, it is a potential like high-end number 2 center for the organization. But even if it doesn't, even if it is the size is an issue or anything like that, I just feel like this kid, with the competitive spirit that he has, with the hockey IQ that he has, I think he is going to be able to find a way to be a productive winning player in the National Hockey League. And he is another one that it feels like he could have played, like the version of him that we are expecting. He feels like he is the type of player that could fit in that Stanley Cup final that we just watched with Florida and Edmonton. Like, his style feels like he fits into that. Even though he is a touch undersized, so Sam Bennett. You know, Brad Marchand's not the biggest dude in the world. I'm not saying he can get to those levels. I am just saying the way he plays, the aggression that he plays with, and how smart he is, it feels like he is going to be able to find a role here. And so it does really feel like the floor is just solid middle six guy for a long time with them. And now they take another kind of a lottery ticket type of a move at 32 with Cullen Porter. Yeah, right. Not trusting my typing here all of a sudden, and not trusting the old memory. Colin Potter, that's right. I had Potter written down, and then I just didn't believe it. But this is the type of swing that I love seeing a team take at like 32, and especially for the Flames, where it feels like you get. I don't want to call it safe because I think that puts limitations on what you think Reschny could be, and also maybe overstates things a touch. But about as safe as you feel, let's go with a high upside thing now here with Potter. And I think you get that. He probably isn't going to spend a whole lot of time as a professional down the middle. But he has everyone saying that he is the best skater in this draft, adding pace and skill to this forward group of the prospect pool. And it feels like, again, size may be a bit of a thing, but there is absolutely like high level talent in this kid. And so when you have those potentials where you have one trait that will just work, you know, like that there are guys who have just made it in the NHL based on they can skate really well, and they just kind of figure out where they go after that. But the pressure they can put on the defense gets them there. Potter, like the skating will be NHL level. It is right now. He like that trait fits in the National Hockey League tomorrow. So that works for them. And now if the other stuff where there is very high level potential, if any of those other things hit, now you have a real player on your hands. And so to Toxic's point, Flames prospect pool is good, just missing high-end talent like we've been missing for the past decade. Most of the prospects top out at second liner, top 4 defense, besides Perek. That is fair. I think Brustevich has a little bit more of an upside with that as well. But I think Potter, and I'm not saying like, forget the tank now. Don't worry about McKenna. You got Cullen Potter. I am not saying that. But of all the players now in the prospect pool for the Flames that have a chance to break into that superstar level, that kind of difference-making level, it feels like he moves up toward the top of the list in at least having the potential to do that. I'm not saying he is going to, but it just feels like within his range of outcomes is that sort of a thing. And while the other ones do feel like there is a bit of a ceiling on him, I don't know what the ceiling is on this kid, but there's a lot to be excited about, I think, with him. A lot is changing, not just my facial hair on Couch Potato Diary. Make sure you stay up to date on everything happening with the pod, with the YouTube videos, with the new pod, Living Room Lariat, on social media. I am at Primetime Klein on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, all of them. So follow me at Primetime Klein. everywhere. The rest of the draft, everyone seems to be really high on. From Kyle Cushman, who we had on the radio on Friday, and just was absolutely awesome. I want to get him on the podcast here as quickly as I can. But from Cushman to kind of break down the rest of it, Stockselius is a big center who scored a lot in the Swedish Junior League. Phillips is one of the biggest players in the draft. Wyttenbach won the Gaudreau Award as the USHL player who best embodies the legacy of Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau. This is a well-rounded class. And it feels like this is the second year in a row that we are saying this. And so it is, again, the point we bring up with the Flames is that if, and let's just say, when this organization gets that high-level player that they have been missing for a long time now, when that happens, they are ready to go. This will not be the Chicago Blackhawks. Like, you look at now the organizational depth that they have with two pretty solid drafts, that all of a sudden the depth of the prospect pool feels strong. And there are some very good, like, foundation pieces, but in a different way than in San Jose, where we talked about, okay, that, like, championship foundation could be set with that. This is more like building it like the house, where it's like, okay, this is what you're going to set it on. Now we put the mansion on top. If you were to get a Gavin McKenna or something like that. Like, I think, like, if this team gets Gavin McKenna next year, they're a playoff team the year after. Like, I feel like they have set everything up where you have players at the NHL level like Azari, a Coronado, and those sorts of guys. I think Frost falls into that as well, with the high level that you have potentially on the back end with Parekh and Brustavich, like we talked about, and then the sort of depth pieces that you can win with Reschny's. I think Stromgren has potential to be that sort of thing. Like, it feels like now the organization has been set up in a way that if you want to build on this, it's going to be pretty easy to be able to do that. And at some point here, very, very quickly, there's going to be a lot of upward pressure on guys who we viewed as high-level prospects anyway. And so I think that maybe a few of them don't pan out the way you want. That is how prospects work. But they are now in a spot, and I'm not saying they should do this now, but they are now in a spot where they can move three of these pieces and go out and make a big-time splash and get a bigger type of a player to build around it. Like, they have built such a great system, and it is 2 years in a row where you come out of this feeling like this team, when it comes to the draft, really does have both hands on the steering wheel in a way that we haven't felt about them for a really long time. So once again, the Calgary Flames come away from a draft feeling like they are one of the winners of the weekend.